Hare Krishna. We'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday Krishna book reading. We come here to read Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada every Sunday here in his Vrindavan sacred room where he entered Samadhi on November 14th, 1977. So we come here every Sunday to read Krishna book to him. You can turn to chapter 45 and towards the end, the paragraph starting Krishna and Balaram. Krishna. Before we begin, as we always do, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachadesha Tarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, reading from the chapter entitled Krishna becomes the son of his teacher, recovers the son of his teacher. Krishna and Balaram learned the art of dressing hair in various styles and fixing a helmet in different positions on the head. They also learned how to set up a theatrical stage, how to decorate dramatic actors with clothes and with flower ornaments over the ear, and how to sprinkle sandalwood pulp and water to produce a nice fragrance. They also learned the art of performing magical feats. Within the magical field, there is an art called Bahurupi, by which a person dresses himself in such a way that when he approaches a friend, he cannot be recognized. Krishna and Balaram also learned how to take various syrups and beverages required at various times. Srila Prabhupada. Krishna and Balaram also learned how to make various syrups and beverages required at various times, having various tastes and intoxicating effects. They also learned different types of sewing and embroidery work, as well as how to manipulate thin threads for dancing puppets. This art includes how to string wires on musical instruments, such as the veena, sitar, esaraj, and tambura, to produce melodious sounds. Then they learn how to make and solve riddles. They learn the art of how even a dull student can very quickly learn the alphabet and read books. Then they learn how to rehearse and act out a drama. They also studied the art of solving crossword puzzles, filling up the missing spaces, and making complete words.
They also learn how to draw and read pictographic literature. In some countries in the world, pictographic literature is still current. A story is represented by pictures. For instance, a man and house are pictured to represent a man going home. Krishna and Balarama also learned the art of architecture, how to construct residential buildings. They learn to recognize valuable jewels by studying their luster and colors. Then they learn the art of placing jewels in a gold and silver setting so that they look very beautiful. They also learn how to study soil to find minerals. This study of soil is now a greatly specialized science, but formerly it was common knowledge even for the ordinary man. They learn to study herbs and plants to discover how they would act as medicine for different ailments. By studying the different species of plants, they learn how to cross-breed plants and trees and get different types of fruits. They learn how to train and engage rams and cocks in fighting for sport. They then learn how to teach parrots to speak and to answer the questions of human beings.
They learn practical psychology, how to influence another's mind, and thus induce another to act according to one's own desire. Sometimes this is called hypnotism. They learned how to wash hair, dye it different colors, and curl it in different ways. They learned the art of telling what is written in someone's book without actually seeing it. They learn to tell what is contained in another's fist. Sometimes children imitate this art, although not very accurately. One child keeps something within his fist and asks his friend, "Can you tell what is within?" And the friend gives some suggestion, although he actually cannot tell. But there is an art by which one can understand and actually tell what is held within the fist.
Krishna and Balaram learned how to speak and understand the languages of various countries. Not only did they learn the languages of human beings, Krishna could also speak even with animals and birds. Evidence of this is found in the Vaishnava literature compiled by the Goswamis. Then they learned how to make carriages and airplanes from flowers. It is said in the Ramayana that after defeating Ravana, Ramachandra was carried from Lanka to Bharatvarsha on a plain of flowers called a Pushpa Ratha. Krishna and Balaram then learnt the art of foretelling events by seeing signs. In a book called Kannada Vachana, the various types of signs and omens are described. If when one is going out, one sees someone with a bucket full of water, this is a very good sign. But if one sees someone with an empty bucket, it is not a good sign. Similarly, if one sees a cow being milked alongside its calf, it is a good sign. The result of understanding these signs is that one can foretell events. And Krishna and Balaram learned the signs. They also learned the art of composing matrika. A matrika is like a crossword box with 3 numbers in each row. If one adds any 3 from any side, it will come to 9. The matrikas are of different kinds and for different purposes.
Can you turn up the volume a little?
Krishna and Balaram learnt the art of cutting valuable stones such as diamonds, and they also learned the art of questioning and answering by immediately composing poetry within the mind. They learned the science of the action and reaction of physical combinations and permutations. They learned the art of a psychiatrist who can understand the psychic movements of another person. They learned how to satisfy one's desires. Desires are very difficult to fulfill, but if one desires something which is unreasonable and can never be fulfilled, the desire can be subdued and satisfied. And that is an art. By this art, one can also subdue sex impulses when they are aroused, as they are even in brahmachari life. By this art, one can make even an enemy one's friend or transfer the direct action of a physical element to other things.
Lord Krishna and Balaram, the reservoir of knowledge, exhibited their perfect understanding of all arts and science mentioned above. Then they offered to serve their teacher by awarding him anything he desired. This offering by a student to the teacher or a spiritual master is called Guru Dakshina. It is essential that the student satisfy the teacher in return for any learning received, either material or spiritual. When Krishna and Balaram offered their services In this way, the teacher Sandipani Muni thought it wise to ask them for something extraordinary, something no common student could offer. He therefore consulted with his wife about to ask from them. He and his wife had already seen extraordinary potency of Krishna and Balaram and could understand that the two boys were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They decided to ask for the return of the son, who had drowned in the ocean near the shore of Prabhas Kshetra.
When Krishna and Balaram heard from their teacher about the death of his son, they immediately started for Prabhashetra on their chariot. Reaching the beach, they asked the controlling deity of the ocean to return the son of their teacher. The ocean deity immediately appeared before the Lord and offered him all respectful obeisances with great humility. The Lord said, Sometime back you caused the drowning of the son of our teacher. I order you to return him. The ocean deity replied, The boy was not actually taken by me, but was captured by a demon named Panchajana. This great demon generally remains deep in the water in the shape of a conch shell. The son of your teacher might be within the belly of the demon, having been devoured by him.
On hearing this, Krishna dove deep into the water and caught hold of the demon Panjana. He killed him on the spot, but could not find the son of his teacher within his belly. Therefore he took the demon's dead body in the shape of conch shell and returned to his chariot on the beach of Prabhashetra. From there he started for Samayamani, the residence of Yamraj, the superintendent of death, accompanied by his elder Balaram, who is also known as Halyuda. Krishna arrived there and blew on his conch shell.
So here we have a beautiful painting, Krishna Balaram in the shore of the ocean asking the ocean deity to return the sun. Prabhupada said these paintings are like windows into the spiritual world. You see how Krishna and Balaram, they're shaven up
Zoom.
in the blue color.
Okay. Hearing the vibration, Yamraja appeared and received Sri Krishna with all respectful obeisances. Yamraja could understand who Krishna and Balarama were, and therefore he immediately offered his humble service to the Lord. Krishna had appeared on the surface of the earth like an ordinary human being, but actually Krishna and Balarama are the super soul living within the heart of every living entity. They are Vishnu himself, but were playing just like ordinary human boys. When Yamraja offered his services to the Lord, Sri Krishna asked him to return his teacher's son, who had come to him as a result of his work. Considering my ruling supreme, said Krishna, you should immediately return the son of my teacher.
Yamaraj returned the boy to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna and Balarama brought him to his father. The brothers asked if their teacher had anything more to ask from them, but he replied, My dear sons, you have done enough for me. I am now completely satisfied. What further want can there be for a man who has disciples like you? My dear boys, you may now go home. These glorious acts of yours will always be renowned all over the world. You are above all blessing, yet it is my duty to bless you. I therefore give you the benediction that whatever you speak will remain as eternally fresh as the instructions of the Vedas. Your teachings will be honored not only within this universe or in this millennium, but in all places and ages, and will remain increasingly new and important. Due to this benediction from his teacher, Lord Krishna's Bhagavad-Gita is ever increasingly fresh and is renowned not only within this universe, but in other planets and other universes also.
Being ordered by their teacher, Krishna and Balaram immediately returned home on their chariot. They travelled at great speed, like the wind, and made sounds like the crashing of clouds. All the residents of Mathura, who had not seen Krishna and Balaram for a long time, were very much pleased to see them again. They felt joyful, like a person who has regained his lost property. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 45th chapter of Krishna. Krishna recovers the son of his teacher.
Chapter 46. Uddhava visits Vrindavan. Nanda Maharaj returned to Vrindavan without Krishna and Balaram. He was accompanied only by cowherd boys and men. It was certainly a very pathetic scene for the gopis, Mother Yashoda, Srimati Radharani, and all the other residents of Vrindavan. Many devotees have tried to make adjustments to Krishna's being away from Vrindavan because, according to expert opinion, Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, never goes even a step out of Vrindavan. He always remains there. The explanation of expert devotees is that Krishna was actually not absent from Vrindavan. He came back with Nanda Maharaj as promised.
When Krishna was starting for Mathura on the chariot driven by Akrura and the gopis were blocking the way, Krishna assured them that he was coming back just after finishing his business in Mathura. He told them not to be overwhelmed and in this way pacified them. But when he failed to come back with Nanda Maharaj, it appeared that he either cheated them or could not keep his promise. Expert devotees, however, have decided that Krishna was neither a cheater nor a breaker of promises. Krishna, in his original identity, returned with Nanda Maharaj and stayed with the gopis and Mother Yashoda in his bhava expansion. Krishna and Balaram remained in Mathura not in their original forms but in their expansions as Vasudeva and Sankarshan. The real Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan in their bhava manifestation, whereas in Mathura they appeared in the Prabhav and Vaibhava expansions. This is the expert opinion of advanced devotees of Krishna. Externally, however, they were absent from Vrindavan. Therefore, when Nanda Maharaj was preparing to return to Vrindavan, there was some discussion between him and the boys concerning how they could live in separation. The conclusion to separate was reached by mutual agreement.
Vasudeva and Devaki, who happened to be the real parents of Krishna and Balaram, wanted to keep them now because of the death of Kamsa. While Kamsa was alive, Krishna and Balaram were kept under the protection of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. Now, naturally, the father and mother of Krishna and Balaram wanted them to remain specifically for a reformatory function of purification, the sacred thread ceremony. They also wanted to give give them a proper education, for this is the duty of father. Another consideration was that all the friends of Kamsa outside Mathura were planning to attack Mathura for that reason also. Krishna's presence was required. Krishna did not want disturbed by enemies like Dantavakra and Jarasandha. If Krishna were to go to Vrindavan, these enemies would not only attack Mathura but would go on to Vrindavan, and the peaceful inhabitants of Vrindavan would be disturbed. Krishna therefore decided to remain in Mathura, and Nanda Maharaj went back to Vrindavan. Although the inhabitants of Vrindavan felt separation from Krishna and resulting ecstasy, bhava caused them to perceive that Krishna was always present with them by lila pastime.
Since Krishna had departed from Vrindavan and had gone to Mathura, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, especially Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, Srimati Radharani, the gopis and the cowherd boys, were simply thinking of Krishna at every step. They were thinking, here Krishna was playing in this way. Here Krishna was blowing his flute. Krishna was joking with us in this way. And Krishna was embracing us like this. This is called Lila Smarana, and it is the process of association with Krishna most recommended by great devotees. Even Lord Chaitanya, when he was at Puri, enjoyed Lila Smarana association with Krishna. Those in the most exalted position of devotional service and ecstasy can live with Krishna always by remembering his pastimes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a transcendental literary work entitled Krishna Bhavanamrita, which is full with Krishna's pastimes. Exalted devotees can remain absorbed in Krishna thought by reading such books. Any book of Krishna Leela, even this book, Krishna, or our teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is actually solace for devotees feeling separation from Krishna.
Krishna and Balaram did not return to Vrindavan can be adjusted as follows. They did not break their promise to return to Vrindavan, nor were they absent, but their presence was necessary in Mathura. In the meantime, Uddhava, a cousin brother of Krishna, came to see Krishna from Dwarka. He was the son of Vasudev's brother and was almost same age as Krishna. His bodily features resembled Krishna's almost exactly. After Krishna returned from his teacher home, he was pleased to see Uddhava, who happened to be his dearmost friend. Krishna wanted to send him to Vrindavan with a message as to the residents to pacify their deep feeling of separation.
As stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, Ye yada mam prabhatyante tam tadaiva bhajami aham. Krishna is very responsive. He responds in proportion to the devotee's advancement in devotional service. Thus, as the gopis were thinking of Krishna in separation 24 hours a day, so Krishna was also always thinking of the gopis, Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaja, and the other residents of Vrindavana. Although he appeared to be away from them, he could understand how they were transcendentally aggrieved, and so he immediately wanted to send Uddhava to give them a message of solace.
Uddhava is described as the most exalted personality in the Vrishni dynasty, being almost equal to Krishna. He was a great friend of Krishna's, and being the direct student of Brahaspati, the teacher and priest of the heavenly planets, he was very intelligent and sharp in decision. Intellectually, he was highly qualified. Krishna, being his very loving friend, wanted to send him to Vrindavan just to study the highly elevated ecstatic devotional service practiced there. Even if one is highly elevated in material education and is even the disciple of Brahaspati, he still has to learn from the gopis and the other residents of Vrindavan how to love Krishna to the highest degree. It was Krishna's special favor to Uddhava to send him to Vrindavan with a message for the residents there, which was meant to pacify them.
Lord Krishna is also named Hari, which means one who takes away all distress from the surrendered souls. Lord Chaitanya states that there cannot at any time be a worship as exalted as that realized by the gopis. Being very anxious about the gopis' grief, Krishna talked with Uddhava and politely requested him to go to Vrindavan. Shaking Uddhava's hand with his own hands, he said, "My dear gentle friend Uddhava, please go immediately to Vrindavana and try to pacify my father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi, and the gopis. They are grief-stricken, as if suffering from great ailments. Go and give them a message. I hope their ailments will be partially relieved. The gopis are always absorbed in thoughts of me. They have dedicated body, desire, life and soul to me. I am anxious not only for the gopis, but for anyone who sacrifices society, friendship, love and personal comforts for me. It is my duty to protect such exalted devotees. The gopis are the most dear. They always think of me in such a way that they remain overwhelmed and almost dead in anxiety due to separation from me. They are keeping alive simply by thinking that I am returning to them very soon."
Requested by Lord Krishna, Uddhava immediately left on his chariot and carried the message to Gokula. He approached Vrindavan, and at sunset, when the cows were returning home from the pasturing ground, Uddhava and his chariot were covered by the dust raised by the hooves of the cows. He saw bulls running after cows for mating. Other cows, which overladen milk bags, were running after their calves to feed them with milk. Uddhava saw that the entire land of Vrindavan was filled with white cows and their calves, running here and there all over Gokula. And he could hear the sound of milking. Every residential house in Vrindavan was decorated for the worship of the sun god and the fire god and for reception of guests, cow, brahmana and demigods. Every home was sanctified by lights and incense. All over Vrindavan there were nice gardens filled with flowers and sounds of humming bees and singing birds. The lakes were filled with lotus flowers and with ducks and swans.
Uddhava entered the house of Nanda Maharaj and was received as a representative of Vasudeva. Nanda Maharaj offered him a sitting place and sat down with him to ask about messages from Krishna, Balaram, and other family members in Mathura. He could understand that Uddhava was a very confidential friend of Krishna's and therefore must have come with good messages. "My dear Uddhava," he said, "how is my friend Vasudeva enjoying life? He is now released from the prison of Kamsa, and he is now with his friends and his children, Krishna and Balaram. So he must be very happy. Tell me about him and his welfare. We are also very happy that Kamsa, the most sinful demon, has been killed. He was always envious of the family of the Yadus, his relatives. Now, because of his sinful activities, he is dead and gone, along with all his brothers.
Please let us know whether Krishna now remembers his father and mother and his friends and companions in Vrindavan. Does he like to remember his cows, his gopis, his Govardhan hill, his pasturing grounds in Vrindavan? Or has he now forgotten all these? Is there any possibility of his coming back to his friends and relatives so we can again see his beautiful face with its raised nose and lotus-like eyes? We remember how he saved us from the forest fire, how he saved us from the great snake Kaliya in the Yamuna, and how he saved us from so many other demons. And we simply think of how much we are obliged to him for giving us protection in many dangerous situations. My dear Uddhava, when we think of Krishna's beautiful face and eyes and his different activities here in Vrindavan, we become so overwhelmed that all our activities cease. We simply think of Krishna, how he used to smile and how he looked upon us with grace. When we go to the banks of the Yamuna or the lakes of Vrindavan or near Govardhan Hill or the pasturing fields, we see that the impression of Krishna's footprints are still on the surface of the earth. We remember him playing in those places because he was constantly visiting them. When his appearance within our minds become manifest, we immediately become absorbed in thought of him.
We think, therefore, that Krishna and Balaram may be chief demigods in heaven, who have appeared before us like ordinary boys to execute particular duty on the earth. This was foretold by Garg Muni when making Krishna's horoscope. If Krishna were not a great personality, how could he have killed Kamsa, who possessed the strength of 10,000 elephants? Besides Kamsa, there were the strong wrestlers, as well as the giant elephant, Kovalya. Krishna killed all these animals and demons just like a lion kills an ordinary animal. How wonderful it is that Krishna took in one hand the big heavy bow, made three joint palm, three and broke it very quickly. How wonderful it is that for 7 days continuously he held up the Govardhan hill with one hand. How wonderful it is that he has killed all the demons like Palambasur, Dhanukasur, Aristasur, Trinavat, and Bakasur. They were so strong that even the demigods in heavenly planets were afraid of them. But Krishna killed them easily as anything.
While describing the uncommon activities of Krishna before Uddhava, Nanda Maharaj gradually became overwhelmed and could no longer speak. As for Mother Yashoda, she sat by the side of her husband and heard the pastimes of Krishna without speaking. She simply cried incessantly, and milk poured from her breasts. When Uddhava saw Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda so extraordinarily overwhelmed with thoughts of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, And when he experienced their extraordinary affection for him, he also became overwhelmed and spoke as follows: "My dear Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, you are most respectable among human beings, because no one but you can meditate in such transcendental ecstasy."
Uddhava continued, Balaram and Krishna are the original personality of Godhead, from whom the cosmos manifestation emanates. They are chief among all personalities. Each of them is both the material and the effective cause of this material creation. Material nature is conducted by the pursuit, incarnation of all act under Krishna and Balaram. By their particular representation, they enter the heart of all living entity. They are the source of all knowledge and all forgetfulness also. This is confirmed by Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita, 15th chapter. I am present in everyone's heart, and I cause one to remember and forget. I am the original compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the actual knower of the Vedas. Uddhava continued, if at the time of death a person can fix his pure mind upon Krishna even for a moment, after giving up his material body, he becomes able to appear in his original spiritual body, just as the sun rises with the illuminations passing from his life. In this way, he immediately entered into the spiritual kingdom, Vaikuntha.
This is the result of Krishna conscious practice. If we practice Krishna consciousness in this present body while in a healthy condition and in good mind, simply by chanting the holy Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, we will have every possibility of fixing the mind upon Krishna at the time of death. If we do this, then our lives become successful without any doubt. But if we keep our minds always absorbed in fruitive activities for material enjoyment, then naturally at the time of death we shall think of such activities and again be forced to enter material conditioned bodies to suffer the threefold miseries of material existence. Therefore, to remain always absorbed in Krishna consciousness was the standard of the inhabitants of Vrindavana, as exhibited by Maharaja Nanda, Yasoda and the Gopis. If we can simply follow in their footsteps, even to a minute proportion, our lives will surely become successful and we shall enter the spiritual kingdom Vaikuntha.
My dear Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Uddhava continued, you have thus fixed your minds wholly and solely upon that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, whose transcendental form is the cause of impersonal Brahman. The Brahman effulgence is only the bodily rays of Narayan, and because you are always absorbed in ecstatic thought of Krishna and Balaram, what pious activity remains for you to perform? I have brought a message from Krishna that he will very soon come back to Vrindavan and satisfy you by his personal presence. Krishna promised that he would come back to Vrindavan after finishing his business in Mathura. This promise he will surely fulfill. I therefore request the two of you, who are the best among all who are fortunate, not to be aggrieved on account of Krishna's absence.
You are already perceiving his presence 24 hours a day, yet he will come and see you very soon. Actually, he is present everywhere and in everyone's heart, just as fire is present in wood. Since Krishna is the super soul, he regards everyone equally. He sees no one as his enemy, no one as his friend, and no one as lower or higher than him. He actually has no father, mother, brother, or relative, nor does he require society, friendship, and love. He does not have a material body like us. He never appears or takes birth like an ordinary human being. He does not appear in higher or lower species of life, like ordinary living entities, who are forced to take birth on account of their previous fruitive activities. He appears by his internal potency, just to give protection to his devotees. He is never influenced by the modes of material nature, but when he appears within this material world, he seems to act like an ordinary living entity under the spells of the modes of material nature. But, in fact, he is the overseer of this material creation, and while remaining unaffected by the material modes of nature, he creates, maintains, and dissolves the whole cosmic manifestation. We wrongly look upon Krishna and Balaram as ordinary human beings, just as whirling men see the whole world whirling around them. The personality of Godhead is no one's son. He is actually everyone's father, mother, and supreme controller. There is no doubt of this. Whatever is already being experienced, whatever is not being experienced, whatever already exists, does not exist or will exist in the future, whatever is smallest and whatever is the biggest, have no existence outside the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything rests in him, but he is untouched by everything manifested.
Nanda and Uddhava thus passed the whole night discussing Krishna. In the morning, the gopis prepared for morning arati by lighting their lamps and sprinkling butter mixed with yogurt. After finishing their Mangala arati, they engaged themselves in churning butter from yogurt. While the gopis were thus engaged, the lamps reflected on their ornaments made the ornaments still brighter. Their churning rods, their arms, their earrings, their bangles, their vests, everything moved, and kumkuma powder gave their faces a saffron lustre comparable to the rising sun. While making sounds by churning, they also sang the glories of Krishna. The two sounds of vibration mixed together ascended to the sky and sanctified the whole atmosphere.
After sunrise, the gopis came as usual to offer their respects to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. But when they saw the golden chariot of Uddhava at the door, they began to inquire among themselves, what was that chariot and to whom did it belong? Some of them inquired whether Akrura, who had taken away Krishna, had returned. They were not very much pleased with Akrura because being engaged in the service of Kamsa, he had taken lotus-eyed Krishna away to the city of Mathura. All the gopis conjectured that Akrura might have come again to fulfill another cruel plan. But they thought, we are now dead bodies without our Supreme Master Krishna. What further act can Akrura perpetrate against these dead bodies? While they were talking in this way, Uddhava finished his morning ablutions, prayers and chanting and came before them. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of the 46th chapter of Krishna. Uddhava visits Vrindavan.
Chapter 47. Delivery of the message of Krishna to the gopis. When the gopis saw Uddhava, they observed that his features almost exactly resembled those of Krishna, and they could understand that he was a great devotee of Krishna's. His arms were very long and his eyes were just like the petals of the lotus flower. He was dressed in yellow garments and wore a garland of lotus flowers. His face was very beautiful, having achieved the liberation of Sarupya and thus having the same bodily features as the Lord. Uddhava looked almost like Krishna. In Krishna's absence, the gopis had been coming dutifully to visit Mother Yashoda's house early in the morning. They knew that Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were always grief-stricken and they had made it their first duty to come and pay their respects to the most exalted elder personalities of Vrindavan. Seeing the friends of Krishna, Nand and Yashoda would remember Krishna himself and be satisfied, and the gopis also would be pleased by seeing Nanda and Yashoda.
When the gopis saw that Uddhava was representing Krishna even in his bodily features, they thought he must be a soul completely surrendered unto Supreme Personality of Godhead. They began to contemplate, who is this boy who looks like Krishna? He has the same eyes like lotus petals, the same raised nose and a beautiful face. He is smiling in the same way. In all respect, he resembles Krishna Syamasundar, the beautiful blackish boy. He is even dressed exactly like Krishna. Where has this boy come from? Who is the fortunate girl who has him for her husband? Thus they liked amongst themselves. They were very anxious to know about him, and because they were simple, unsophisticated village girls, they surrounded Uddhava.
When the gopis understood that Uddhava had a message from Krishna, they became very happy and called him to a secluded place and offered him a nice sitting place. They wanted to talk with him very freely and did not want to be embarrassed before unknown persons. They welcomed him with polite words in great submissiveness. We know that you are a most confidential associate of Krishna and that he has therefore sent you to Vrindavan to give solace to his father and mother. We can understand that family affection is very strong. Even great sages who have taken to the renounced order of life cannot give up family affection cent per cent. Sometimes they think of their family members. Krishna has therefore sent you to his father and mother. Otherwise, he has no further business in Vrindavan. He is now in town. What does he have to know about Vrindavan village or the cows' pasturing grounds? These are not at all useful for Krishna because he is now a man of the city.
Surely he has nothing to do with persons who do not happen to be his family members. Friendship with those outside the family continue as long as there is some selfish interest in them. Otherwise, why should one bother about those outside the family, especially a person attached to the wives of the other is interested in them as long as there is a need of sense gratification. Just as the bubble bee here interests in flower as long as they want to take the honey out of them. It is pathological, very natural that the prostitute does not care for the palmora as soon as he loses his money. Similarly, when the citizens find that the government is incapable of giving them full protection, they leave the country. A student, after finishing his education, gives up his relationship with the teacher and the school. A priest, after taking his reward from the worshipper, gives up when the fruit season is over. The birds no longer interest in the tree. Just after eating in the house of the host, the guest gives up his relationship with him. After a forest fire, then there is a scarcity of green grass. Deer and other animals give up the forest. And so a man, after enjoying his girlfriend, gives up his connection with her. In this way, all the gopis indirectly accuse Krishna by getting many examples.
Uddhava understood that the gopis of Vrindavana were all simply absorbed in the thought of Krishna and his childhood activities. While about Krishna with Uddhava, they forgot all about their household business. They even forgot about themselves as their interest in Krishna increased more and more. One of the gopis, namely Srimati Radharani, was so much absorbed in thoughts of Krishna by dint of her personal touch with him that she actually began to talk with a humblebee which was flying there and trying to touch her lotus feet, while the other gopis were talking with Krishna's messenger Uddhava. Srimati Radharani took that bumblebee to be a messenger from Krishna and began to talk with it as follows: Bumblebee, you are accustomed to drinking honey from flower to flower, and therefore you have preferred to be a messenger of Krishna, who is of the same nature as you. I can see on your mustaches the red powder of kunguma, which was smeared on the flower garland of Krishna, while it was pressed against the breasts of some other girl who is my competitor. You feel very proud because of having touched that garland, and your mustaches have become reddish. You have come here carrying a message for me, anxious to touch my feet. But my dear bumblebee, let me warn you, don't touch me. I don't want any messages from your unreliable master. You are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. It may be that Srimati Radharani purposely addressed the bumblebee sarcastically in order to indirectly criticize the messenger Uddhava. Like the other gopis, Srimati Radharani saw that Uddhava's bodily features resembled Krishna's, but she also saw Uddhava as being equal to Krishna. Indirectly, therefore, she indicated that Uddhava was as unreliable as Krishna himself. Srimati Radharani wanted to give specific reasons why she was dissatisfied with Krishna and his messenger.
She addressed the bumblebee. Your master Krishna is exactly of your quality. You sit down on a flower, and after tasting a little honey, you immediately fly away and sit on another flower and taste. Similarly, only once did your master Krishna give me the chance to taste the touch of his lips, and then he left me altogether. I know also that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, who is always in the midst of the lotus flower, is constantly engaged in Krishna's service. But I do not know how she has become so captivated by Krishna and why she is so much attached to Krishna, although she knows his actual character. Maybe she is so much captivated by Krishna's sweet words that she cannot understand his real character. As far as we are concerned, we are more intelligent than the goddess of fortune. We are not going to be cheated anymore by Krishna or his messengers.
According to expert opinion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is a subordinate expansion of Srimati Radharani. As Krishna has numerous expansions of Vishnu Murtis, so his pleasure potency, Radharani, also has innumerable expansions of goddesses of fortune. Therefore, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Ji, is always eager to be elevated to the position of the gopis. According to expert opinion, Lakshmi, the goddess... Srimati Radharani continued, "You foolish bumblebee, you were trying to satisfy me and get a reward by singing the glories of Krishna. But it is a useless attempt. We gopis are bereft of all our possessions. We are away from our homes and families. We know very well about Krishna. We know even more than you. So whatever you make up about him will be old stories to us. Krishna is now in the city and is better known as the friend of Arjuna. He now has many new girlfriends who are no doubt very happy in his association. Because the lusty burning sensation of their breasts has been satisfied by Krishna, they are now happy. If you go there and glorify Krishna, they may be pleased to reward you. You are just trying to pacify me by your behavior as the flatterer, and therefore you have put your head under my feet. But I know the trick you are trying to play. I know you are a messenger coming from an even greater trickster, Krishna. Therefore, please leave me."
I can understand that you are expert in reuniting two opposite parties, but at the same time, you must know that I cannot place my reliance upon you, nor upon your master, Krishna. We left our husbands, children, and relatives only for Krishna. Yet he did not feel any obligation in exchange. At last, he left us forlorn. Do you think we can place our faith in him again? We know that Krishna cannot live for a moment without the association of young women. That is his nature. He is finding difficulty in Mathura because he is no longer in the village among innocent cowherd girls. He is in aristocratic society and must be feeling difficulty in making friendship with other young girls. Perhaps you have come here to canvass again or to take us there. But why should Krishna expect us to go there? He is greatly qualified to entice all other girls, not only in Vrindavan or Mathura, but all over the universe. His wonderfully enchanting smile is so attractive, and the movements of his eyebrows are so beautifully that he can call for any woman from the heavenly, middle, or plutonic planets. Even Mahalakshmi, the greatest of all goddesses of fortune, hankers to render him some service. In comparison to all these women of the universe, what are we? We are very insignificant.
Krishna advertises himself as magnanimous, and he is praised by great saints. His qualification would be perfectly utilized if he would only show us some mercy. For we are so much downtrodden and neglected by him. You poor messenger, you are only a less intelligent servant. You do not know how much about Krishna, how ungrateful and hard-hearted he has been. not only in this life but in his previous lives also. We have all heard this from our grandmother Purnamashi. She has informed us that the Krishna was born in the Kshatriya family previous to this birth and was known as Ramchandra. In that birth, instead of killing Bali, an enemy of his friend, in the manner of a Kshatriya, he killed him just like a hunter. A hunter takes a secure hiding place and then kills an animal without facing it. So Lord Ramchandra, as a Kshatriya, an animal without facing it, should have fought with Bali face to face. But instigated by his friend, he liked him from behind a tree. Thus, he deviated from the religious principle of a Kshatriya. Also, he was so attracted by the beauty of Sita that he converted Surpankha, the sister of Ravana, into an ugly woman by cutting off her nose and ears. Surpankha proposed an intimate relationship with him, and as a Kshatriya he should have satisfied her, but he was so hand-packed that he could not forget Sita Devi and converted Surpankha into an ugly woman. Before that birth as a Kshatriya, he took his birth as a Brahmana boy known as Vaman Deva and asked charity from Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was so magnanimous that he arrested him just like a crow and pushed him down to the Patal kingdom. We know all about Krishna and how ungrateful he is, but here is a difficulty in spite of his being so cruel and hard-hearted. It is very difficult for us to give us talking about him, and it is not only we who are unable to give up this talk, but great sages and saintly persons also engage in talking about him. We gopis of Vrindavan do not want to make any more friendship with this blackish boy, but we do not know how we shall be able to give up remembering and talking about his activities.
Since Krishna is absolute, his so-called unkind activities are as relishable as his kind activities. Therefore, saintly persons and great devotees like the gopis cannot give up Krishna in any circumstances. Lord Chaitanya therefore prayed, Krishna, you are free and independent in all respects. You can either embrace me or crush me under your feet, whatever you like. You may make me broken-hearted by not letting me see you throughout my whole life, but you are my only object of love. In my opinion, Srimati Radharani continued, no one should hear about Krishna because as soon as a drop of the nectar of his transcendental activities is poured into the ear, one immediately rises above the duality of attraction and rejection. Being completely freed from the contamination of material attachment, one gives up attachment for this material world, including family, home, wife, children, and everything else materially dear to every person. Being deprived of all material acquisitions, one makes his relatives and himself unhappy. Then he wanders in search of Krishna, either as a human being or in other species of life, even as a bird, and voluntarily accepts the profession of a mendicant. It is very difficult to actually understand Krishna, his name, his qualities, his form, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, and his entourage.
Srimati Radharani continued to speak to the black messenger of Krishna. Please do not talk any more about Krishna. It is better to talk about something else. We are already doomed like the black spotted she-deer in the forest who are enchanted by the sweet musical vibration of the hunter. In the same way, we have seen enchanted by the sweet words of Krishna and by thinking of the race of his toenails again and again. We are becoming more and more lusty for his association. Therefore, I request you not to talk of Krishna anymore. These talks of Radharani with the bumblebee messenger, including her accusing Krishna in so many ways, and at that same time expressing her inability to give up talking about him, are the signs of the topmost transcendental ecstasy called Mahabhav. The ecstatic Mahabhav manifestation is possible only in the persons of Radharani and her associates. Great acharyas like Srila Rup Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have analyzed these Mahabhav speeches of Srimati Radharani and described their different varieties such as Udgurna or bewilderment and Jalpa Pratijalpa or talking in different ways. These are the signs of Ujjvala Rasa or the brightest jewel of love of God.
Let's stick to one paragraph unless it's really short.
While Radharani was talking with the bee, and the bee was flying hither and thither, it all of a sudden disappeared from her sight. She was in full mourning due to separation from Krishna and felt ecstasy by talking with the bee. But as soon as the bee disappeared, she became almost mad, thinking that the messenger bee might have returned to Krishna to inform him all about her talking against him. Krishna must be very sorry to hear it. She thought in this way. She was overwhelmed by another type of ecstasy.
In the meantime, the bee, flying hither and thither, appeared before her again. She thought, Krishna is still kind to me. In spite of the messengers carrying disruptive messages, he is so kind that he has again sent the bee to take me to him. Srimati Radharani was very careful this time not to say anything against Krishna. My dear friend, I welcome you, she said. Krishna is so kind that he has again sent you. Krishna is so kind and affectionate to me that he has fortunately sent you back in spite of your carrying my message against him. All good fortune to you, my dear friend. Now you may ask for me whatever you want. I shall give you anything because you are so kind to me. You have come to take me to Krishna because he is not able to come here. Being surrounded by new girlfriends. Wait, I'm sorry, Prabhupada. My dear friend, now you may ask for me whatever you want. I shall give you anything because you are so kind to me. You have come to take me to Krishna because he is not able to come here, being surrounded by new girlfriends in Mathura. But you are a tiny creature. How can you take me there? How will you be able to help me meet Krishna while he is taking rest there with the goddess of fortune and embracing her to his chest? Never mind. Let us forget all these things about my going there or sending you. Please let me know how Krishna is faring in Mathura. Tell me if he still remembers his foster father Nanda Maharaj, his affectionate mother Yashoda, his cowherd friends, and his poor friends like us, the gopis. I am sure he must sometimes sing about us, who served him just like maidservants without any payment. Is there any possibility that Krishna will come back and place a guru-scented hand on our heads? Please put all these inquiries to Krishna.
Uddhava was standing near, and he heard Radharani talking in this way, as if she had become almost mad for Krishna. He was exceeding surprised at how the gopis were accustomed to thinking of Krishna constantly in the topmost anxiety of Mahabhav love. He had brought a message in written from Krishna, and now he wanted to present it before the gopis. Just to pacify them, he said, "My dear gopis, your mission of a human life is now successful. You are all wonderful devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are eagerable to be worshipped by all kinds of people. You are worshipable throughout the three worlds because your minds are wonderful, absorbed in the thought of Vasudev, Krishna. He is the goal of all pious activities and ritualistic performances, such as giving charity, regard followers, the austerity of vows, undergoing severe penance, and integrating the fire of sacrifice. He is the purpose behind the chanting different mantras, reading the Vedas, controlling the senses, and concentrating the mind in meditation."
That concludes the hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada this week. So we have to stop in the middle of our chapter, delivery of the message of Krishna to the gopis. We'll continue next Sunday. So let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Bacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpatubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Krishna Book, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Gauda Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna.